Hey guys, it's Astro CB. We are loaded and we are headed toward nowhere. Actually, I'm loaded and I'm not headed anywhere other than the backyard tonight because we were going to do Astro right here at the old house. Pardon the bird net. So I'm gonna get started here and show you a few things that I've done here recently to the gear. It should be interesting. So tonight we're going to do some Astro, and I haven't done Astro in a while. I haven't done a video in a while, and the reason was because I was kind of down and I was kind of out about the state of my roof on my house. I had so many problems with the insurance claim, and then attempting to get financing was a no-go. So I was really down, and I prayed about it, and God sent Mr. Roofer. He blessed me with a roof. Mr. Roofer is a veteran-owned company. They do troop tributes, usually about once a year, but they did two this year. One for another veteran and one for me. They had the shingles donated. They had donated themselves the labor. And if you listen carefully, you can hear them. They're hammering in the background. They're over the First Congregational Church of Cerrito, now putting a roof on them as well. So we are back, and I have to thank them for lifting my spirits enough to get me back out to take pictures of the night sky again, because there was a time that, you know, just didn't interest me because I was feeling low, and we've got some equipment here that I'm working out. I couldn't work out the bugs in that, not during that time, because it was too frustrating. So hopefully by watching this you'll be able to alleviate some of those frustrations by me explaining some of the challenges that I had to go through while I was setting up. So we'll get into it here before the sun goes down and go over some of this. Okay, for the telescope here we have the William Optics 61. It's a Zenith Star 61. Of course, I keep this up here. It's pretty handy to do the flat frames. So I'll just put this here because I'm always looking for it, especially when it gets dark out, and it's a hard thing to see in the dark. We have the ZWO camera here, which is going to be the imaging camera, and the AsiAir Plus, which has been a game changer for me. The problem that I really experienced here was when hooking on the ZWO camera onto the William Optics 61, you have these spacers that come with the camera. Those are 55 millimeters. However, with the William Optics flattener, the regular flat 61A, you still need to space it out. Additionally, 12.9 millimeters in addition, where your star field is going to be messed up on the sides, and you're going to have stars that are pointing, you know, in the directions in the corners that kind of look like star trails. If they go diagonally towards the center of the image, that means that your sensor is too close to the flattener, and if they're the opposite way, that means your sensor is too far. So that's one of the bugs that I had to work out. And also we have here a ZWO. This is a ASI 120 MCS. This is what is being used for guiding. Guiding's a whole nother story. And the imaging camera here is cooled. It's an ASI 294 MC Pro. So that's what we're going to be using tonight. And I'm still in the test phase. It's always a good idea to take your equipment out and test it prior to going on a trip somewhere. One thing that's really nice about the ZWO here is I've been able to disconnect the hand controller. But there was a few things when I open the app and show you about. In order to do that, there's some things you got to kind of tweak in there. In the field, you know, I can just use a small jackery now because it's not taking as much power draw as having a laptop out there. What's good about the AsiAir is if you have a Mac that has access to the App Store, you can run it on there if you choose. You can run it on a simple cell phone. You can run it on an iPad. You can run it on all kinds of different devices that are really small and really low on power consumption, so it's a big help out. So we'll get here into that calibrating and setting up soon. So before I even hook anything to the mount, going to extend the legs because it is a lot easier to do when it's empty than when it is loaded. So I'll get those tightened up. That tightened up. Before I even worry about leveling this thing though, I want to make sure I'm pointing toward a general area where the Polaris is going to be. And to do that, I use this program, which is the PS Align Pro. I really like that piece of software. Let's see if I can get that up on the screen now. Okay, so it has a setting in here. It looks like a little laser pointer. You push that, and then this will come up. I can take this to the mount, and I can get the general direction that I need to point before I even try to level. Because what good is it to level? It does no good to level your mount and then have to make another adjustment. Usually, you know, it's the tripod legs or something else. So we're dead on center there. So then we'll start going into leveling the mount. It has a nice little sight bubble here that you can look down on. This yard here is pretty good already. It's pretty level. So I'm used to setting up in this spot, but if I was out somewhere else, I'd definitely have to recheck it. So we're going here, leveling this bubble. It's not usually a good idea to use this to level with, but you can get a general idea of doing that. So we're pretty dead on both ways. With excellent polar alignment though, as the AsiAir Plus can provide, leveling is really not that essential. You still want to be, you know, fairly level. You don't want to be lopsided, of course. That'd be a guiding nightmare, as guiding is already kind of a nightmare on this mount on the EQ35 Pro, because when they set these up, they made this so tight, and you can see mine's flopping now, but it's still a little tight, but I've made some adjustments to loosen both the RA and deck, the RA and declination, right access and declination, because they were just so tight. One of the guys in the video I made when I went to Sand Gap Church actually pointed that out. He says, "Man, your mount's stiff." I said, "Yeah, I know." So I found a video. I can post a link in the description that showed how to fix it. Of course, work on it at your own risk because you don't want to mess anything up. I didn't mess with the gears at all, as he suggested, because I'm kind of frightened of that. I could see me manipulating the gears and then they grinding and grind off, and oh, that'd be a nightmare. Anyway, we have the leveling complete. Now we're going to start loading up the tripod. You may have noticed that the video got a little bit dimmer, and that's because I was inside looking for this USB 3.0 cable. Now, had I not done a dry run and tested this out, you would have thought I was smart enough to look here and see it wasn't hooked in, because it's all one unit once it comes off of there, but I didn't look at it. So I would have got out somewhere and be like, "Hey, wait a minute, I don't have a USB 3.0 cable," so I'd have been in trouble. Now, on hooking this up, I use this ZWO camera and this ZWO camera, both plug into the AsiAir at the USB 3.0 ports. For the mount, I found this nifty little coil wire here, but it goes into the 2.0 port, because there is no need to use a 3.0 port for your mount. Which you see the power I have just hooked into a power box here, and that is an Aptora. I would recommend quality power boxes, not the real cheap ones, because this stuff's expensive. So if you fry something by trying to skimp on a power supply, why would you save, you know, $10 on a power supply to fry a $1,000 system? It doesn't make much sense, but people do it. Now, there's also people that have said not to plug the power supply from the AsiAir to your mount. The reason for that is these ports give off 5 amps. If you've ever put a meter on the mount, when the mount is slewing, it takes sometimes up to 6 amps. Sometimes it'll spike and go way higher than that, and that's going to cause you to fry the AsiAir. Don't want to do that. I've seen it slew before with a weak fuse in the cigarette lighter adapter, the CLA. I've seen it pop the fuses in that as well, because there'll be a power spike, or when you're sitting here plugging it into the jackery, you know, sometimes you'll get an arc and you'll fry the little fuse that's in the end of this thing. So if you are out somewhere, you definitely want to keep fuses with you if you're using this. But you also want to be very careful in the field, because if you pull this out, there's a spring in here that makes this thing springy, and the tip of this thing is teensy little tiny, so it could fall out and get on the ground and you have a nightmare. You'll spend an hour looking for it in the dark. So you don't want to do that. And that's another reason I like to set up in the daytime, is so that I can have everything good to go and not have to be on my hands and knees with a light on and look like some kind of person, you know, that is into something bad, searching the ground with the light on your head. So you don't want to do that. Bob will have the cops show up to your star party. So anyway, we're going to continue here, and we'll allow the sun to continue to set. And I've checked, I'm still facing where Polaris is supposed to be at. We'll find out. Just waiting to hear that beep. Let me know that everything's hooked up. I'll turn this on, that might be important. So let's see if I can get this to work right. Alright, so we're recording. Bring up the AsiAir app. This is not going to show up until I get that beep sound of confirmation from this to know that it's turned on and ready to go. Helps if you turn on the power. It's another one for the blooper reel there. Usually only takes a few seconds. This currently says on here, service is unconnected. It is hooked right now to my home network, but that is a bad idea when you're doing your focusing, because your home network is going to make the pictures come across your device very slowly. So at least for that part, you need to hook directly to the AsiAir. There's the beep, do a scan. And then you can reconnect back to your other network again. It's not finding yet. There it is. Okay, and on this mount, you have this selection. These birds are really loud, sorry. You have the Skywatcher selections down here, like the send and scan and all that, and it may look like a good idea, you know, to hook to one of those, but that's not what you're trying to do, especially if you have eliminated the hand controller. You want to go to EQ mod. And when you get there, just hit enter. You have all your other cameras in there, your focal length, your guide scope, focal length, all that's 30 millimeters, 364 for the telescope, which is figured based off of the camera. For the telescope, it's already connected, but if it wasn't, it'd be off. Normally it connects off, but make sure your baud rate is set to 115,200. You're gonna have issues. Okay, so now that's connected. I have my settings in here. You want to make sure that you turn on tracking. It's going to be side rail. It should be at home position already, so that shouldn't move anywhere. It moved just a little bit. I was wrong. Maybe I didn't have it exactly where it should have been. Then you have those arrow keys in here. And that's going to go based on the rate you have it set up. It's set up to 1800 or 800, and that's going to go a lot faster. So you can just move it with those arrows. You also have the go-to feature that's in here. Right now it's set to a field of view cross. To get there, we just click on this menu with the Big Dipper. Let's say I want to go a little bit over here away from Polaris. So I move this around. It looks a lot like Stellarium, but it's better, I think. Go to cross. So now it's going to slew over to that cross, which, you know, is somewhere around Polaris. Of course, it's going to try to take a picture to figure out, and it'll do a plate solving, but it's not going to be able to do that with the cover on. we'll do that again once it gets dark enough to see Polaris, and you'll see it'll do a plate solve. It'll center right up. Works so much better, so much faster. And if it runs smooth, it makes your night smooth. But if it doesn't run smooth, you'll have some bumps in the road. So I'm going to go ahead and stop that, because it's not going to be able to validate. Obviously, you can't see any of the stars right now. So that's the basics. We've done a real quick test. I can set it back to home position, repower it up, should be ready to go, and then we're ready to start taking images. Quick setup. One other thing that's really neat about this is you can hook it to your Mac. You can connect to it that way, right on there. It's all running on there. It's a bigger screen. You can go to your iPad, you can hook to it on there. Amazingly, most of the time you can see it's already there. You can connect to it. You can connect it on all kinds of different devices at the same time. Okay, well, I'll have to disconnect it from one of these, but apparently you can connect it to just 2 devices at the same time. It says connection limit reached. So now it's going to connect on the phone, now that I've freed up a connection. But yeah, it's pretty neat, because if you're going back and forth between inside and outside and you're worried about losing signal, you can keep one inside running, keep one outside running. Keep one inside that's plugged into a battery, keep one inside your car that's plugged in to the car, so you don't have to worry about losing your connection. Of course, this one's doing something funny. This is a really old device, so it's not reconnecting. But this one's not, so we should be able to reconnect quite easily on that. For some reason, this one's a little bit buggy. It's definitely an older model of a phone. I just use it mainly just to control this thing. But you have several different options, and it's quite versatile. I really like it. Okay. So now, I think I'm screen recording. I'm going over to Vega. So go ahead and hit go. Mount slews every day. I haven't even done polar alignment yet. My thing right now is just to get focus. And we got to make an adjustment here. It's going to solve. This target is centered, so we'll confirm that. Whoa, what's this? Looks like we got a nebula now by Vega or something. I'm not sure what happened. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and start the focusing and shooting. And you can use this focuser on this app, or you can just go back to a simple batting off mask. Put it on here, see what kind of picture we got. Of course, I'm going to shake them out a little bit, and we're in pretty good focus. Can move it a little bit. Off focus. On good focus. So we can look in here. Hit that plus sign there. Of course, it's gonna look funky because I got the batting off mask on, but I'll take that off. We're gonna get some movement. Now, so star size is 10. The higher the value, the better. So I can try to tweak that a little bit. No, a little bit higher. $77. 8,000. All right, it's kind of hard when there's a lot of humidity in the air because we're going to get some variables. I call that in. I'm going to screw down my focuser if I can. Tighten in. I'm going to get a lot of movement where I'm tightening this down. I'll have to wait on it to settle. Okay, so we've settled down. So we may have knocked it around a little bit. I wonder what that looks like because that's a higher number. I wonder what that will look like with a batten off mask on. It's right there, it's off. Really, even with the mask on, you can't notice a difference in the mask. But if we take it off and let it collect a couple frames here, and go into the value here, you can certainly see that it's, okay, there we go, that it's higher than where I thought it was initially. It's one of them things like with polar alignment, you can just stay on here all night long. I'm not sure what that was. As long as this is staying pretty steady. I'm jumping around there. We're staying above 7,000. I'd really like to get back to 8. But I really don't think we will. So I'm going to leave it there. We'll get out of here and look at it again with a mask. I'm just curious while it's doing that. Go ahead and give it another. Tighten it down just a little bit here. There we go. Weird because you can see like rays going outward in the mask now, right through the center. See those faint little lines going through. That's interesting. So we've done that. Now we want to take the mount and we want to go back to the home position. Because the next thing that I'm going to start, let me take off the batten off mask, is polar alignment. So we'll go ahead and do that and I'll come right back. Okay, so I've just got done with focusing. Now I'm going to go and I'm going to hit this menu over here and we're going to go to polar alignment. And it's telling me preparation has to be in the home position, which we just went there. So now it's going to take a shot. Plate solve took 2 seconds. Okay, now it's gonna auto rotate the mount. If it's bright enough, I'd show you. Let's see if I can. No, it's not bright enough for you to see anyway, so but it's rotated the mount now. And it's taking a shot. That's going to calculate just how far off I am. I just click let's go. And of course it's unhappy. It's very unhappy because I really didn't calibrate it to begin with. So it's telling me I need to go down 32 minutes and I need to go to the right by 26 minutes, which is a lot of adjustment. I want to do auto refresh. There you go, smile. And yeah, I could sit here and I could tweak and tweak and tweak. Try to get a little bit better on the elevation. Probably just made it worse. Solve failure. Ugh. Okay. That's as good as I'm gonna do. There are 17, is that minutes? Yeah, I think that's minutes. 17 minutes, 0 hours, and 0 degrees. So we'll stay right there. I'm gonna finish, I'm gonna get a score now. It's gonna be absolutely horrible because it took me so long. Congratulations on a global rank. Well, I don't know how I defeated 27%, because that was absolutely atrocious on my time, 7 minutes and 10 seconds. But like I said, I'm not in a speed trial. Okay, now, so I have slewed over to 1848. And what you can do is, if you don't like exactly where it's at, how it's framed, you can move it a little bit in here and then hit go to cross, and it'll go right to that exact position that you, in the way that you're wanting to frame it. Now remember, before you start doing your flat frames, not to turn it, of course, or if you're shooting multiple nights, you want to keep the camera in the same place. But this is where I want this particular target framed. So it's going to validate that it's successful. I'm going to go in, because it is a cross section, I'm going to do it as an auto run plan. And I'll select auto run, and I hit these 3 menu items here. And it's going to say the target is FOV, or field of view, cross. So I'm going to change that to sole. That's the target. I'm going to set it to 300 second exposures. I'm going to set that to repeat 60 times. I'm going to save the bin 1. You want to make sure you save the bin 1, because bin 1 is your largest image that your camera can handle. Bin 2 is lower, bin 3, and so forth and so forth. They're not storage bins, so they're not for lights, flats, bias, darks, as they're listed above each other in here. That's not at all how it works. Binning is the size of the image. I actually got that wrong. That should be on a blooper reel, but I did get that wrong. So before I start my auto run plan, I'll go ahead and start working on guiding. Guiding is going to take a little bit to calibrate. You want to let it finish its calibration. I've got a power line in my guiding right now, but it's starting to loop now. And looking at the stars, they don't look too bad. So I'm going to go ahead and click on guide. Now it's going to calibrate. And this calibration part usually takes about 10 minutes or so, but it's a good idea to let it finish out. Of course, it's going to be checking the mount. And if it starts doing something really crazy, like when I had the wrong mount programmed into this, it started slewing and slewing and slewing. It actually backed the mount and binded it into itself, which was not good. But once I got that straightened out, it's working. If I had a blooper reel, I'd show it to you, but I was in too much of a panic when this thing ran into itself to do that. So we will let this guide and come back and check in on it when it's done. All right, let's see if I can get this to come back up here. Sorry about all that noise earlier. It's a very noisy place, as you can see. There's always sirens going off, and that was a train going by. That's why it was so loud here in the Bortle 9 million Cerrito. There's a lot of trains, so I strapped on the trusty microphone. Hopefully I don't bump it too much like I was bumping back there, but it is still calibrating. South step 24. I forget exactly how many steps it makes. I was thinking it was about 30 or so steps that it will make. So I'm going to go ahead and let this continue to calibrate, and we'll see about how long it takes. I think it's at least, like I said, 10 minutes. It's down to 19. I think it started out at 40. I could be mistaken. We're at 18, so I'll come back on here when it gets a little bit closer. All right, so here we should be seeing our first image come across now. You can hear the train going off in the background. That's why I strapped the mic to myself. See how bright it is from the light. I don't even need my light to pick me up. This is just so bright. So it's already moved on to the next exposure, but I believe I'm connected through my home network, so it's really slow coming across with the image. So I'm just going to go into the folder here on the AsiAir. It looks like I'm collecting more than just stars. I'm collecting apparently the top of the building, or I'm collecting what looks like a power line. It's always a problem. Here is always these power lines, so I may even have to go find a new target tonight. If it doesn't move off of this in the next few seconds, I definitely will, because I would really like to be able to have a stack of images taken with this new setup to see what it looks like. So far, after being out with this 3 times, it hasn't happened. So you have to have perseverance and patience to do this. It doesn't really look like it's hitting it, but it is. There is a huge plane. Wow. At least it's not an image path. However, power lines are. We'll check the next exposure, and hopefully we've moved off of it by then. Sometimes it takes as long as 15 minutes to clear a power line. Alrighty then, power line central. Looks like I've got a little bit until it hits the next power line. The good thing about this is I can go in here to my image folder, go to my lights, pull up my plan, which is Sol. I've still got M31 on there, which I was testing. That's when my field flattener was all messed up. I can pull up Sol. I can look at my images. You can see this light, number 1 fit, it's in there. Number 2 fit, it's in there. Number 3 fit, it's in there. 4's in there, and 5's in there. Looks like on 6 we are clear. We'll scroll over to 7, and it's clear. And this one's clear. So rather than stack all these messy photos, I can hit this little slash button up here, which I don't know if you can see that from there, but you can see it on the screen. I can select this one. You can see the power line. Number 4 you can see. Number 3 you can see. Number 2 you can see. And number 1 you can see the power line. I'm going to hit the delete button. 5 files will be deleted, unable to restore. That's fine, because I don't really want to stack power lines tonight. So now I have 3 usable 5-minute images for a total of 15 minutes. It's not much, but I'm going to continue to shoot tonight. Looks like I'm going to run into a second power line probably in about an hour. So I'm probably just going to shoot it for another hour and then stop, because tomorrow night I'm actually taking this to a darker side. Even though we have right now a half moon, tomorrow we'll have more illumination on the moon. Or is it less? Is it waxing or waning? I'm not sure. I have to look at the calendar. But we'll have better astro seeing tomorrow because of the humidity and things like that. So I'm going to go to a lower Bortle sky. I'm in a Bortle 6 right now. On the map it shows it's a 5, but if you do the dark sky app, actually shows that it's a 6. Sometimes here it's a 7. It just depends on how many people have their lights on. But everything's looking good. We have 3 Sol Nebula pictures. I have 85 seconds remaining on this one. I'll continue shooting, and I probably won't get a stack in on this particular segment of this video. I just really wanted to go through the run through of what it was like setting up with the AsiAir, and it's a lot easier for me, so you can imagine how hard things were before. I had a really hard time setting up with things. And you know, with the roof and everything going on, and then that added frustration, that's why I didn't do Astro for a while, and that's why I didn't make videos. We're going to show you some pictures there of the work that Mr. Roofer did. And this is B Savage, not average. It's a cool little shirt that he gave me. So we'll check in on that and continue the image.